to briefly address a bit of important housekeeping on the channel, and for those who are not interested in this kind of stuff, you can just skip forward the black and white part of the video, but for those who have maybe noticed that I've made less videos in the past couple of weeks, that was a very deliberate choice. It's actually kind of a shame that I haven't had people asking that, because there are so few people that have noticed, because so few people are actually being shown the videos in the first place. 0.5% viewership, something like that, out of the total 126, nearly 127,000 people. Most videos that I do are lucky to get a couple of thousand views, if that, sometimes even less, and that's just completely ridiculous. I can't constantly be fighting the algorithm, burning out on the channel, and just producing videos that no one's really seen. So rather than wasting that content, I'm essentially trying to play things the way that YouTube wants it to be done to see if it makes any actual difference. I suspect it will make no difference whatsoever to this as a business in terms of income, because the videos aren't being watched anyway. If anything, it will stop me from absolutely hating what I do. We're still doing all of the members' videos, of course, and I'm still trying to do at least one video a week, and still getting out stuff like Circuit Spotlight and the cars that you've never heard of kind of videos, that kind of stuff. And then aside from that, focusing in mostly on stuff regarding GT7 and occasionally some Forza Horizon 5 and special projects kind of stuff. With all of that being said though, let's dive into the review. Now this is one of those cars where you may think, well hang on, I'm pretty sure you've already talked about this in GT Sport and I didn't think you reviewed the same cars twice. On this occasion though, we actually kind of have and haven't talked about the M3 before. We've talked about the Sport Evo version, which is slightly newer, of course, than this car, which we still have in the game. That's in GT Sport and GT7. This one, curiously, is only in GT7, and it is, of course, the 1989 BMW E30 M3. So it's not a Sport Evo, it's a 212 horsepower car. Funnily enough, and this was completely unintentional, you can buy both of them in the used dealership as of today in GT7, so you can check out the specs and the prices in real time, and it really is that price which is the big difference between the two cars. This is already a very special machine, but it's way cheaper than the Sport Evo version, understandably so. That car is 162,000 credits. This one, in comparison, is 79,000, essentially half the price. In terms of point level, it's not a huge difference given double the price. This one's 461 points. The Sport Evo version, at least stock of course, is 466. Barely 5 points separates the two cars. This still has 212 horsepower, only weighs 1,200 kilos, which these days that would be like a super lightweight vehicle compared to most modern cars. So the real question is, now that you've got the chance and the opportunity to buy them both, it's not so much that the cars are expensive or cheap, it's more so that modifying cars not only takes the time, the know-how, maybe a tutorial video here and there depending on your skill level, but also takes a considerable amount of cash once you start getting into stuff like wide bodies and motor swaps. So which one is better, and what differences are there between the two that make this one worth having in GT7? One of the main things is something you can see right here in the video. I would actually say, and this is pretty cool in favour of the non-Sport Evo, it has a better engine swap. The newer version has the option of the GR Supra engine. This one though has the Suzuki Vision GT swap, up to, in this case, over, 10,000 RPM, 750 horsepower in this particular build, and this of course was one of the earliest in the Signature Series cars, which I did in special projects, and the build is still out on the channel, and now driving this car again, it's one of those where you don't have to make a huge amount of changes. It was always designed to be a fast but challenging car, and that's exactly what it still is. In fact, the only changes I made to the vehicle were, if I recall correctly, I bumped up the anti-roll a little bit to basically 5, front and rear, and changed the dampers on the compression up to the maximum, so 40 and 40, and that's what I'm driving here. Of course, it's on super softs, super lightweight, it's an extreme version. As I said years and years ago, the whole point of the build was it was basically what you'd get if you crossed a Zonda R and a BMW E30. The performance speaks for itself. It's monstrously fast around the track. It's still twitchy, it's still technical, and the funny thing is, all of the cars from this kind of era in GT7, be it the Mercedes 190, which in real life is my favourite of the three, definitely not so much in the game between the three though, the Sierra RS500, and this one, I would actually go so far as to say that the Beamer, in my opinion at least, is the most solid all-round pick. The crazy part is, I would actually go even further and say that this 1989 M3 is better than the Sport Evo, because it has the better engine swap, it's half the price, and it's just a more fun car, a more engaging car with said motor swap, etc. once you fully build them both. Now all of that isn't to say that the other car is bad. Of course, it's not. It's legendary, it's great, etc. But there's just so little difference in any kind of tangible way between the two cars once you pour this kind of money into it. Any difference in favour of the Sport Evo, that is to say. There's no real reason to get it unless you just want that particular version. If you want the more interesting standard car and you plan to keep them stock, then sure, go for that one. modified, but in modified versus modified form, simply put, it doesn't have that advantage anymore. In terms of handling, in terms of what it's like, as a performance car, well, I've spoken in a real-world car review that I did of one of my neighbours' BMW E30s, who very kindly lent me it to drive, that yeah, they are fantastically fun through corners, but I've also spoken to people who drove the full-on M3, this car, in other words, years and years later, and even though at the time it was revolutionary, it doesn't really feel that quick anymore by today's standards. And you can say a similar thing for the Mercedes 190 Evo, legendary car, worth huge amounts of money, but not actually that quick anymore. It's like a 7-second 0 to 60 time, which really isn't that impressive given how legendary of a car it is. Again, back then it was, nowadays not so much. In terms of the handling in the game, I already alluded to this earlier on, but for me personally, I find the M3 to be the best out of the Ford, Beamer, Mercedes kind of trio. The Mercedes just always feels like it's kind of heavier than it actually is, which is a shame. Currently I drive a 190 as my daily, nowhere near a Cosworth or anything like that, but it is a good handling car. Comparing it to the Beamer, I will say the Beamer is definitely sharper through corners, and that shows in the game. The payoff to that is it is definitely twitchier as well. The Sierra feels like it kind of gets in its own way a bit when it comes to suspension tuning, and of course we've addressed that problem in the past, even with some of the touring car builds, and people had issues with said touring car, and even in standard form. So it's kind of funny how all three of these cars are a bit weird in terms of their suspension and handling and how they respond to tuning within the game. If you're only going to buy one out of all of them, I'd say probably go for this one. Chances are you probably already have multiples of all of them, so this is one of those occasions where I'm reviewing a car to kind of fill in the gaps. We already reviewed the Sport Evo in the past and GT Sport, probably won't revisit it in this game because there's not really any reason to, at least not anytime soon, and I would say that this one, thanks primarily to that motor swap, is at the very least the more interesting car of the two, and potentially the quicker one as well. The Supra engine can get some serious power, but if nothing else, it probably doesn't feel as raw of an experience. A Supra engine versus this just extreme, almost like Hayabusa kind of approach to a track car, it's just a cooler car, and that's part of the reason why I chose it for the Signature Series build. Do you prefer this version, or do you prefer the Sport Evo? And maybe, if you want to weigh in about the Sierra and Mercedes rivalry as well, which one of the three, or I guess four technically, would you choose? That's it for this review though. I'll see you in future for more, and thanks for watching.